The new Clipse record, Let God Sort 'Em Out, is officially out. And it is a great record. It has been on heavy rotation for me. But what I want to get into isn't the album itself, but the album rollout. This has been A1 elite. Like, this is a case study in marketing, publicity, promotion. I truly believe that this Clipse album is setting the standard. This is what the gold standard should be for a hip hop release in 2025. And I want to break all of that down for you. Let's get into it. Now, we got to go all the way back, right? When we're talking about an album rollout, these might be words that a lot of young fans have no idea what I'm talking about. So, when it comes to an album, back in the day, an album was really an event. This was something that you waited years to hear from your favorite artist. Only as we got into the late 90s, so it's like 98, 99, and I would say Jay-Z, DMX, I mean, they were some of the artists that started just releasing music back to back. Now we're in an era where artists are releasing music without warning. And I want to be very clear, there is a distinction, right? This isn't someone like Beyonce releasing like a surprise project. Like, she's very meticulous and discerning. I think we all know she is someone who takes her craft very seriously. What I mean is, in hip hop, so many artists now, I believe they treat their music like it's a throwaway. You know, here's like a one-off, here's a Lucy. Even if I do an album, it might have, 30 tracks. I didn't even bother to edit it down. I don't care about the sequencing. Like, I'm really trying to game the streaming algorithm and, game the system, because all I care about is the numbers, right? And to me, it just feels like when an artist themselves doesn't care, why should I, as a fan or as somebody in the music industry, care, right? The artist should care more than anyone. And think about the way we consume music now. New Music Friday drops and, midnight comes around. By 12:05, you got fans, furiously on social media saying it's either a classic and, it's on par with the greatest music of all time, or it's a dud and they never listen to it again. Albums aren't revered as pieces of art, as bodies of work, as important to the artist's canon. Now it really is about volume over everything. It's quantity over quality. And if somebody drops something that's, not that great, they don't have to even live with it. There's no repercussions. It's sort of like, all right, cool, on to the next. And you hope that you just flood the market with more content, music or otherwise, and people forget the fact that your last record was terrible. And I think with the Clipse project specifically, this is an album. This is something that for the Clipse, it's an important album. It's their reunion. It's the first time they're dropping something together in, I believe, 16 years. So from the way they started this project to the recording process, a lot of it took place at the Louis Vuitton headquarters. I mean, you can hear in the interviews they say how much time they took for like each line, or even this idea of how do we sequence it. I mean, that first opener is so good. Like, I know I wasn't going to talk about the actual tracks. That John Legend record is impeccable. And if you can listen to that without like shedding at least a few tears, I don't know who you are. It is so emotional and personal and vulnerable and necessary. But okay, I digress. I don't want to go into a whole album review right now. But I think the Clipse themselves treated this as special. And everything that they did after that was just indicative of it. In many ways, they followed an old school model. So the album is done. And then they started hitting, sort of traditional marketing, promotion, publicity. This is why they did so many interviews. It was everything from hip hop magazines, fashion, lifestyle. They're talking to every podcast. They're really going into any and every media platform. I mean, the past few days, I've seen them do the Breakfast Club. I've seen them do Tiny Desk. I've seen them do Complex. Like, they are just hitting everything. And I think it's so dope because all we keep hearing is hip hop media is dead. Nobody wants to read interviews. No one wants to watch, an hour interview. And that's not true. Like, in reality, to me, the headline about this album is the album. And there are people who want kind of the gossip or the salaciousness around it. That to me isn't even sort of like the headline. Like, I think if you're really thinking about this album, It's just about great rap music. And that's what we should be talking about. And I think for a lot of fans, they're just not used to that. If it's not about, a beef, it's not about some sort of drama, who's dating who, they don't even know how to act. And I can see the way certain fans are consuming this music. They just seem really confused. And to me, it is so indicative of the fact there needs to be this cultural reset. Like, let's focus on bars, let's focus on beats, storytelling, flow. That's the stuff that we should be talking about as rap fans and as rap media. The other thing I really loved about the album Rollout was the timing of everything. So the album itself was sent to people in the media. I know there was a leak, so that very much brought me back to like the blog era, when your friend sends you that Z-Share link. And it was just so great, like leading into the album, you saw certain touch points. Okay, we got the first single, we got Ace Trumpets, it comes with this awesome video. And instead of just following it up with, more and more and more tracks, let's focus on that being the main single. Then, when it came to the interviews, as you saw, they would do interviews leading into the release date. But then, once release date hit, you just saw back to back to back stuff. And that's how it used to be. When it is your release date and you're a big artist, you need to just plaster the world. And I know that gets harder and harder because now we all kind of live in our own echo chamber, and based on who you follow and what platform you're on, you may or may not hear or see certain things, but that's a really big feat. And you have to remember, Justin Bieber did a surprise album on the same day. Not to say that the Clipse fans and Bieber fans are the same. In fact, I think they're very separate by and large. But I think that says something that even though a huge superstar released his album, it felt like everything was about the Clipse. I saw it on my timeline. I was reading articles. I was watching videos about it. And I can't tell you how many people from the industry and also outside of the industry were just hitting me saying, hey, have you heard this? What do you think about this? Like, that word of mouth excitement is so rare. Like, I can't tell you the last time that happened, right? And it just shows like people who actually love music, love hip hop, we still want that. And it's so great when an artist is doing that in their music and in their rollout. I think a lot of people are wondering, how did the Clipse do this? Like, how are they everywhere? They seem to just be getting all this praise from media and from, heads across the board. And that really is putting out good product, not just this time, but every single time. Every time the Clipse puts out music, it's quality. Every time Pusha T puts out music, it's quality. And we know that. And for people like myself, I mean, I remember, beating on the desk when Grinding came out, and it's been well over 20 years since that happened. So there is that nostalgia element, but there is also the fact that as fans and as media, like, we've seen an actual relationship and there's a tenure there. And I think that's important as well. So many artists, and I've talked about this openly, especially hip hop artists, they like to start in hip hop, and once they make it, it's like, all right, I'm done with you. They don't want to talk to the hip hop outlets. They only want to talk to like fashion or mainstream, and that's what they want to do. And to me, it's like you can do both. And I think that's what was so cool about the Clipse. Like, they can do Tiny Desk, but they can also go on some very sort of niche hip hop podcasts. And I think that's important. You want to show your day ones that you know where they are and you respect them and you love them. And I think that's really necessary for building goodwill in this industry. The other part of it is just having artists who want to work. Like, so many artists get amazing opportunities and they just don't want to take them, right? They're not getting the cover of the magazine or some really high profile TV moment, they just don't want to do it. And I know as a journalist that can be very, very frustrating, but also as a fan. And what I love about this Clipse album Rollout, every different interview gave me different perspective. So, for example, their Breakfast Club interview, it's about their relationship. You see their interplay. It's live, obviously. But then I watched them in the studio with Pharrell for Complex, where they're going track by track to some of their favorite records and listening to it, reacting to it, talking about just that sonic experience, making the record. That's a different perspective. Not every artist can do a rollout like this. So this is a unique situation where there's a group that has, 2 decades of goodwill of a fan base who've been excitedly waiting for this release. So I understand for every artist, especially a new rapper, it probably isn't going to pertain to them. But I do think there are takeaways. I mean, it's like I said, focus on your craft. If you value your album and your music as a piece of art, that's how you treat it in the recording process, that's how you treat it in the rollout, then so will your fans and so will the media and hip hop as a whole. You get to define if your music is seen as something special, as an event, or if it's something that's throwaway. The artist also gets to decide how involved they want to be in the marketing and promotion of their album. If you take this seriously, if you're passionate about it, you feel strongly about it, that's going to translate in interviews. Show up, be professional, be game to do what you committed to do. These things are so important. And again, I can't tell you how many young artists I talk to. They openly say in the interview, I don't want to be a rapper. I hate rap. I'm just doing this for clout or vibes. And just imagine for me as the journalist, like, how am I supposed to synthesize that and then share it with the world like you care? Because clearly you don't care. And, it goes back to even how you treat people behind the scenes in the industry. If you plan on having a long career in this game, treat people nicely, right? Show up, do what you're supposed to do, build those relationships, and over time they will pay off. But if you're viewing hip hop as sort of your entree into the game and you're more concerned about chasing the hot flavor of the week or, looking kind of cool to the young people, or, you're just trying to do this so you can pivot into something else, people see where there's a lack of authenticity, where there's just a lack of integrity, and that translates as well. So I think a lot of the power really falls on the artist. My PSA to all the rappers out there, whether you're an OG, whether you're brand new, you need to study the Clipse rollout. This album rollout, again, A1, elite level. I gotta give them props. So what do you think about the Clipse album rollout? I would love to know if there were any specific things they did, interviews that really resonated with you. I gotta say, that tiny desk was so good, especially at the end when the guy started, beating on the tiny desk. But let me know in the comments what you think about this rollout and what you think other artists can learn from it.